conversation. The Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. Well, last Thursday morning, it was all very straightforward, wasn't it? 70% of the country, whether they'd voted for it or not, accepted Brexit and wanted the government simply to get on with it. But things, I think, may have changed. Now, first off, folks, I was wrong. Yes, I was wrong. How about that? When did you last hear a politician admit they were wrong? I thought, yeah, sure, she'd squandered much of that 20-point lead, but I still thought she'd finish up maybe 5 or 6 points ahead, not just 2 points ahead. I thought, and I said to you last Wednesday, I thought she would still get a majority. Well, I was wrong. I'd underestimated just how badly she'd gone down with voters, and perhaps I'd also underestimated, although I'd said from the day the Labour manifesto was launched that Corbyn was on a bit of a roll, but I'd also underestimated the number of young people, students in particular, that he'd motivated to get out to vote. The Corbyn message, by the way, was populism. Yes, that's right. You can't just apply populism to people you see to be on the right, campaigning for Brexit or Donald Trump. Populism actually works on the left as well, and his was a big, strong, anti-establishment message, and I guess electorally the masterstroke was saying he will abolish tuition fees. May, frankly, was useless during the campaign. She was cold, robotic and insincere. And I have to say, when people are saying, well, why on earth did so many ex-UKIP voters vote Labour? Well, when Theresa was asked by Jeremy Paxman 4 times, as a Remainer, do you now believe in Brexit? She simply couldn't give an answer. So we find ourselves in a very paradoxical position. 85% of people who voted last Thursday voted for parties that not only support Brexit, but support us leaving the single market. And yet, we find ourselves in a position today where some in the Tory party, particularly Ruth Davidson, now given that she's not an MP, I wonder quite what gives her the authority to say this, but people like Ruth Davidson are saying that we've got to reject a so-called hard Brexit, and perhaps a little bit more of what hard and soft Brexit is later on in the programme. We've got to reject that, and actually what Ruth Davidson is saying is really we ought to stay part of the single market. So I'm asking you, is a soft Brexit now inevitable? If you think it is, then call me on 0345 6060 973. If you say no, we must fight for a hard Brexit, well, of course, you can text at 84850, and whether you're confused or otherwise, you can tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC. So is a soft Brexit now inevitable? Now, tonight, as whenever there's a crisis in the Conservative Party, there is a meeting of the 1922 committee. And I'm going to go over to LBC's political editor, Theo Usherwood, who has news of that meeting. Theo, good evening.
Good evening, Nigel. To give you a bit of background on the 1922 committee, because I know some of your listeners will be interested in it. It was formed, or it first met, on October the 19th, 1922, when the Conservatives had a coalition with the Liberals, and they voted to bring down the government of Lloyd George, and the Tories went on to win the subsequent election. So it is, it has sound, from a Conservative perspective at least, sound heritage, and they met tonight, and it is, in effect, the Parliamentary Conservative Party, the opposite to what the Parliamentary Labour Party is. It is chaired by Graham Brady, who is one of the most senior Conservative MPs, and it is the way that the Conservatives depose their leaders. It's through a letter to Mr Brady that they do that. So it's crucial, it was crucial for Theresa May, when she arrived tonight, that she put in a stellar performance. MPs, Conservative MPs, wanted to see contrition. They got it when she arrived. There was some murmurings, a muted banging of the desks, but by the time she left, there were loud cheers and applause. Most MPs that I spoke to very happy with her performance. She told them that she would serve the Conservative Party as long as they wanted her. She also said that she got the party into the mess and she would try and get them out of it. a lot of MPs saying to me afterwards privately that the Maybot that we saw during the general election, that very stilted, rigid performance from Theresa May, like you're referring to there with Jeremy Paxman, like we saw on those stump speeches where she repeated strong and stable over and over and over again until people laughed at her, that was all gone. She had that human side, that she showed humility, she was able to address the room, and that went down very well with the backbenchers. She is safe, Nigel, for now.
So is it a question that the Tory party unite and that their unity matters more than the Brexit process?
Very much so. And you talked about Ruth Davidson there. You asked what gave her the authority. Well, from Ruth Davidson's point of view, and I know some of you will probably disagree with this and some of your callers will disagree with this, she saved Theresa May's skin. She got 13 Conservatives in north of the border. That was unprecedented because she campaigned on the unionist vote, and one must also remember that for the established status quo, at least right now, the only saving grace of the last week has been the union, and the idea of a second Scottish independence referendum rather is now completely off the table for 10 years. Nicola Sturgeon knows she can't have that. So Ruth Davidson is using that capital that she has built up to come down to London, attend a political cabinet. This is despite the fact she's not elected here. She's not elected, she's the leader of the Scottish Conservatives in Holyrood. Nevertheless, she has a seat at the top table, and she's used that this afternoon, and she's used that to float the idea of a grand coalition. Of course, she was a staunch supporter of Remain, and therefore it does look like we are heading for a soft Brexit. When you couple that together with the appointment of Gavin Barwell as the Chief of Staff, the former Housing Minister, arch Remainer, Damien Green, who some may ask, but he was the Work and Pension Secretary, again another arch Remainer, he becomes First Secretary of State. So when there's Prime Minister's questions, as the most senior member of the Cabinet after the Prime Minister, he will take that. So it is now the rise of the Remainers, and you have to remember Philip Hammond stays at the Exchequer, and as such, he's been a big supporter of a soft Brexit, nothing that harms business or the economy.
Theo, I'm going to say thank you for the accuracy of your report. There was a committed Brexiteer. I find it somewhat depressing. Thank you, Theo Asherwood. Well, the Gavin Barwell point is well made. So, as you know, over the weekend, Timothy and Hill, who were the two top advisors, Timothy being the Chief of Staff, they've gone. They've resigned. They seem to be responsible for much of the mess. And it is a mess, isn't it? I mean, come on, she had majority government on her side for the next 3 years, and I guess through hubris, she calls an election and reduces the Conservatives to a minority and puts the Brexit process in peril. And who does she appoint as her new Chief of Staff? This fella, Gavin Barwell. He was the Tory MP for Central Croydon. He lost his seat. He's now got an absolute plum job in number 10. And Gavin Barwell wasn't just an arch Remainer, he was openly abusive about anybody that campaigned openly for Brexit. And in particular, I mean, woe betide any of you if you think we should control immigration, because on Barwell's list, you're a racist and a bigot and a bad person. And these are the people that May has put in charge. I have to confess, I am somewhat worried. I fear that Brexit is going to be watered down. I wonder what Ian in Yateley Hants thinks. Ian, good evening.
Good evening to you, sir, and commiserations on, obviously, the election. I've come to claim my bet, actually, Nigel. I bet with you last Wednesday. I predicted a Labour landslide.
You did? I remember you. Yes. Well, actually, Ian, you were completely wrong. But in terms of direction of travel, you could see that Corbyn had some momentum.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. My model predicted this 2 weeks prior to. I spoke with Ian Dale as well, and he was quite arrogant when he kind of put me down. But my model dives straight into social media. I've got a big spectrum of people that I talk to, and I observe individuals. I observe cognition. I observe the hive mindset.
I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I predicted. So when I predicted a landslide, you have to put it into context, if that makes sense. It was the movement that I had a handle on. Put it this way, Nigel. I mean,
well, Ian, come on, mate. You were you got this more wrong than I did, didn't you?
I don't know. I think it's how you define it. It's how close to the bucket we throw our balls, and which.
Ian, look. What you did was to pick up that momentum. And actually, I spotted that the day Labour launched the manifesto. And I was saying in the last couple of weeks, May looks absolutely miserable as sin, as if she doesn't even want to be there, and Corbyn's having a bull. But here's a point for you, Ian, that I find really interesting, because yesterday we saw both John McDonnell and Jeremy Corbyn appearing on major television programmes, and McDonnell saying that we're not going to stay part of the single market, because if we did, we would not be respecting the result of the referendum. And Jeremy Corbyn talking about a jobs-first Brexit. So the leadership of the Labour Party appear publicly to be more committed to Brexit and leaving the single market even than they were in that manifesto. Yet I'm speaking to you, Ian, from Strasbourg, from the European Parliament, where they're interpreting this tide of votes that Corbyn picked up as being a pro-Remain position. Which is it? Ian, where are you? He's gone. He's gone. I think, in the end, I must have just beaten him down. Or perhaps he didn't want to answer the question. I don't know. But I'll tell you, that is true. Here they're saying to me, the rise of the Corbyn vote, this is happening because he was pro-European Union. No. Actually, you could argue, right now, given the conversations that are going on within the Conservative Party, leading up to the formation of this coalition or confidence and supply arrangement, compare that to Labour. Labour, tonight, look more Eurosceptic than the Conservative Party. Would you believe it? Right now, you're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC, and it's 7:15.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
Brexit Secretary David Davis.
I frankly view as self-indulgent all this sort of leadership talk. We've been given an instruction by the British people. We've got to get on with the job. We've got the biggest negotiation in modern times. Campaign didn't go great. I'm happy to recognise that fact, but she's a good Prime Minister.
In what way is she a good Prime Minister?
Well, she's decisive. She actually involves the Cabinet.
She gets it wrong, Mr Davis.
We all have to put our hands up to that. Every single member of the Cabinet agreed the decision.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast, every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
With Hampton by Hilton, now open in Aberdeen.
Galliard presents brand new homes, all within 35 minutes of central London by train and tube, and all with Help to Buy, the government scheme that allows you to buy with just a 5% deposit. Buy now in Chelmsford from under £200,000, Slough from £230,000, Luton from under £150,000, Rickmansworth and Kings Langley from £235,000, and Hounslow from £260,000. We also fully furnish your home free of charge. Come to 63 to 81 High Street, Rickmansworth, WD3 1EQ, from 5 p.m. on Friday the 23rd of June until 4 p.m. on Sunday the 25th. Call 0203 770 6300 or visit galliardhomes.com. That's galliardhomes.com.
Divorce. It threatens the things you've worked hard for in more ways than you can imagine. Your home, savings, pension, and most of all, your relationship with your children. Don't let divorce cost you any more than it has to. Cordell & Cordell is dedicated to helping men in matters relating to divorce. Call now on 0330 60 60 161 or visit cordellcordell.co.uk. Office in central London. A partner men can count on.
I wish I could create content like videos and music.
But I need the skills to bring my ideas to life.
I wish I could write apps, but I need to learn how to code.
I wish I could get trained up for a media career.
While studying for my GCSEs and A-levels.
The Global Academy in Hayes is a state school for 14 to 19-year-olds interested in a media career. Find out more at globalacademy.com.
The FCA has introduced a deadline to permanently end claims for missold PPI. When this passes, you could miss out. And with billions of pounds still to be repaid, some of that money could be yours. So call now and speak to Claim for Refunds. We have helped thousands win millions since 2009, and we could help you too. All we need is the name of your bank. So if you've had any loan or credit card, let Claim for Refunds find out for free if you had PPI. And if you have, you can claim yourself, or we can handle it for you. It's up to you. And if we don't win your money back, you don't pay a penny, guaranteed. You could be owed thousands and not even know you have PPI. Call 0800 180 8180 or text PPI to 88882.
With breakdown cover from the AA, we'll do whatever it takes to make sure your big wheels keep on turning. Our mechanics usually get you going again in 30 minutes. Breakdown cover from the AA, because anything can happen.
This is LBC, live from Strasbourg. The Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
Mrs May has made a right mess of it. She's turned a majority government into a minority government. She's going to be relying on the 10 Democratic Unionist Party MPs from Northern Ireland to make sure she doesn't get outvoted in terms of confidence motions and that she can get a Tory budget through. So without this strong and stable mandate, is a soft Brexit now inevitable? And I worry that it might be. So what is hard Brexit? What is soft Brexit? Let me tell you, folks, at no point during the referendum campaign were either of those terms used. What we did talk about was the single market. And every single leading player on both the Remain side and the Leave side said, if we vote to leave, it means leaving the single market. And I said, hurrah! We can get rid of crackpot regulation, we can stop paying a fortune and open ourselves up to doing deals with the rest of the world. And disaster, cried Cameron and Osborne and Clegg, remember him, and others on the Remain camp, because they said, in fact, Anna Soubry said, that genius Anna Soubry MP said, that if we weren't part of a single market, all our exports to Europe would stop. But there we are. That was the argument. And post the referendum, hard and soft Brexit. Hard Brexit. Sounds horrid, doesn't it? Sounds bad. Sounds nasty. Soft Brexit. Lovely and cuddly. Soft Brexit means that they want us now to stay part of the single market. And frankly, whilst being in the single market would be slightly better than being European Union members, really, apart from the name change, it wouldn't make that much difference. Your texts and tweets flooding in. Darren Taylor says, if Brexit is watered down, hundreds of thousands of people will take to the streets in process. Darren, I'll see you there, mate. Knock John tweets, there is no hard soft Brexit, there is only Brexit, just as you cannot be a little bit pregnant. Either you have Brexit or you don't. Brexit Crusader says, time to increase the voting age to 21. Teenagers are maturing much later than the last generation. And on text I get, dear Nigel, the people of Britain voted out, and a soft Brexit is not out. They must deliver the will of the people, says Amanda. Oh, I love this one. Nigel, it's all the fault of you and your merry lot of UKIPers. How? By telling people to vote for anyone who wanted Brexit, even Labour. You're the paradox, Nigel. Forget the hard Brexit we voted for. It's all your fault, Kay. Kay, everything is always all my fault. Unless we leave the single market and end freedom of movement, we have not got Brexit at all. John in Dartford. And John, I was keeping that one up my sleeve. The point about so-called soft Brexit, the point about staying in the European single market is not just that we keep their laws. It's not just that we pay money. It's not just that it becomes hard stroke impossible to strike our own deals with the rest of the world. It is, as John in Dartford has absolutely put his finger on it, he's on the money, we would keep the freedom of movement of people. It would mean that up to 500 million people would have complete, untrammelled rights to come to the United Kingdom, which is very much what people voted against. Pamela says on Facebook, this election began as a Brexit election where she was expected to win with an increased majority. However, it was a general election and her manifesto, especially on social care, lost to the votes. And Pamela, in the end, Brexit was a small part of the debate at the end. We had, don't forget, in the middle of it all, the atrocities in Manchester and in London Bridge, traditionally areas where you would have thought May would have done better than Corbyn, and yet the Corbyn line that she'd cut the police force drastically seemed, I think, perhaps, if anything, if it benefited anybody, it might have benefited Corbyn more than him. Danny says, hurry up and make your return to frontline politics, Nigel. Your country needs you. Yeah, thanks, Danny. We're friends like you. Andrew says, make him a lord and give Mr Farage Brexit. Oh, yeah, that ain't going to happen. Speculation in today's newspapers, again, that I might become a lord. I'm lucky by most people to be called even Mr. Graham in Hay on Wye, what do you make of it all?
Well, good to speak to you again, Nigel. I'm very concerned, of course. And you've just made the point I was going to make extremely well, in that we have to confront and defeat the terminology, this misleading terminology used by Remainers, started by Remainers, adopted by the media, of hard and soft Brexit. We need to confront this and ask people where hard Brexit sounds something harsh and horrible, like you said, soft Brexit is warm and cuddly, and people are being misled into thinking, oh, well, soft Brexit sounds okay. People should be challenged every time they use that phrase and say, what do you mean by that? And you'll quickly find out that it means, in effect, staying in the European Union, staying in a single market, which means the pillars, the customs, no deal abroad, money, courts, everything. And what we should be saying is as a matter of Brexit or no Brexit, not hard and soft. And hopefully galvanise people and make them realise that they stand to lose a lot if we go along with this so-called talk of soft Brexit.
In a sense, Graham, will we leave the European Union? Of course we will. There would genuinely be a massive political rebellion if we didn't leave the Treaty of Rome. And that is going to happen in 2019. It simply has to. But as you say, if we leave the European Union but stay part of the European Union single market, we've left it in name only. Graham, a quote here that you might like from Jacob Rees-Mogg, who I rather like. I think he's rather fun. And Jacob said today, he said, hard and soft Brexit are simply words for either leaving or staying in the European Union, rather than the terms of our departure. And Jacob is basically right, Graham, isn't he?
Absolutely right, and we need to stick to this solidly and defeat this stupid terminology.
Well, I have to say, even though they're concerned about the border between, Ireland and Northern Ireland, I hope maybe the DUP will keep Theresa May honest when it comes to Brexit. I don't know. My worry, Graham, is it's not just Ruth Davidson throwing her weight around in the most extraordinary way, despite the fact that the Scottish manifesto on Europe was exactly the same as that for England and Wales. But there are just too many people now lining up and too many appointments, Graham, from the Prime Minister. The Remainers now dominate the Cabinet by 20 votes to 7, and her Chief of Staff is Barwell. So, Graham, thank you for your call. I think you are right to be concerned and to be worried. Chet in Stansted, are we heading now for a soft Brexit, chat?
Nigel, I think we should not be Brexiting at all. I think all this is being false-fed to the public, and I'll tell you what's happened with this election. The youth have woken up. Your supporters voted for Labour because they've woken up. They don't want to be force-fed any more false information about Europe. We have got controls of our borders. We've always had. If you look at the agreement that we've got with Europe at the moment, we've always had control of our borders. Secondly, if we do Brexit, hard or soft, it doesn't matter. If we do exit, we're not going to have control of our borders anyway through Ireland. So that concept is out completely. And I'll tell you something, Nigel, the youth has woken up, and I hope to God that people will see to have a new referendum where people are not on holiday in Europe when the referendum is happening, or watching the World Cup or the European Cup while a referendum is happening. Most of the public was enjoying themselves in Europe while this referendum was happening. So
no, they weren't, Chet. What are you talking about? What are you on about? Are you suggesting that millions of us were on holiday on June the 23rd? Is that what are you seriously telling me that?
Absolutely. And half of them were...
Go get away.
...in Europe, you know, and your supporters came on...
Hang on.
Because of Brexit, because you force-fed them about...
Hang on. How many England football supporters were in Europe?
Nigel, besides that fact, people were on holiday. People were watching football. You've got to see
Chet, it wasn't the school holidays, was it? It wasn't actually the holiday season. Maybe there were 25,000 football supporters on the continent who didn't vote, but maybe a majority of them would have voted Brexit anyway.
Watching football in Europe? Nigel, I don't want to be locked in. I don't want my kids to be locked in the UK. I want an open border where we already have control. We're not even in the Schengen visa agreement.
But Chet, we voted against it, Chet. And if you look at any opinion poll, 3/4+ of the British population want us to have a managed migration policy. And Chet, with the best will in the world, you cannot have managed migration if you're a member of the European Union, can you?
How are you going to have that with Ireland remaining in the EU? Honestly, how are you going to control that? I'm into recruitment.
Well, we've had, Chet, we've had an open border. We've had an open border with Ireland since 1921. And Ireland, as you well know, because you're an expert on this, Ireland is not a member of Schengen either. Now, if it was thought that Ireland was being used as a conduit for illegal immigration, we'd have to look at it.
Tell me something, Nigel. What about millions of workers? What about millions of workers that this country needs? What about that? Why do you want to lock people out or lock people in?
Well, do you know what I want to do, Chet? Do you know what I want to do? I want to train our own nurses. I want to train our own engineers. I think the fact we've gone for, over the course of the last 10 to 15 years, that we can just import labour from all over Europe and we can do it as cheap as possible and not bother to train our own people, I think it's been a disgrace, Chet.
Nigel, half the people that see it are happy being on the dole, mate. You can't say that. People that come from Europe want to work. People they're already happy claiming dole. They're already happy getting a free housing benefit. They're happy. They don't need to work like that.
Chet, the first time I heard a British Prime Minister or senior government figures slagging off our youth as all being drunk and full of drugs and useless and lazy and happy to be on the dole was Tony Blair in 2004, and it's all been used, Chet, as an excuse for total open borders. I thank you very much for your lively phone call. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 7:30 and time for the news with Moira Alderson.
The Prime Minister has told Conservative backbench MPs that she's got the party into a mess, but she will get them out of it. Theresa May's been meeting the 1922 committee after failing to win a majority in last week's election. The Duchess of Cambridge has met people injured in the London Bridge terror attack and the staff who treated them at King's College Hospital. Borough Market will reopen on Wednesday, a week and a half after the atrocity that left 8 people dead. Labour says the NHS must be a priority in Brexit negotiations after a big drop in the number of nurses from the EU registering to work in the UK. Figures show applications fell by 96% since the EU referendum, with just 46 made in April. LBC weather, a dry night ahead with clear spells across the south and east, cloudier across central and northern areas with some scattered showers and lows of 13 degrees.
LBC Travel, good evening. I'm Andy Lake. In Kent, the A21 is closed southbound as investigation work to an accident continues between the A26 and the Vauxhall roundabout, causing delays in Tonbridge tonight. In northwest London, delays on the North Circular on both approaches to Golders Green Road and Golders Green, which stays shut after yesterday's fire. Queues there from Brent Cross and Henley's Corner, respectively. Into Warwickshire now, the M6 is blocked northbound at Junction 3 for Coventry. Emergency repairs are currently taking place to a really bad pothole, bringing it to a total standstill on the approach. In West Yorkshire, the A61 Marsh Way is closed because of a collision at Kirkgate to the east side of Wakefield. And on the rails, Heathrow Express are running a reduced service between Heathrow's Terminals 1, 2 and 3 and Terminal 4. For more real-time traffic updates, go to lbc.co.uk.
This is LBC.
Integrated touchscreen navigation saves you getting lost.
You have reached your destination.
Hands-free keycard saves you fumbling around when your hands are full. Automatic climate control saves you overheating this summer. And now save £750 on the list price on selected Renault Captur stock when you take a test drive plus 20% off accessory packs. Features available on Dynamique Nav, subject to availability. Order and register by 30th of June. Retail customers only. Participating dealers only. T's and C's apply. See Renault.co.uk/offers.
A wise man once said, if you do nothing, you'll get nothing. And that's especially true when it comes to making a PPI claim, particularly now the deadline for claims has been announced. So do something. Text EASY to 60777 and then let the claims guys do their thing. A free search to discover if you ever had PPI. What have you got to lose? One thing's for certain, if you do nothing, you'll get nothing. So text EASY to 60777 now and let the claims guys do the rest.
The claims guys. We'll keep on turning, round and keep on burning, rolling on the river.
With breakdown cover from the AA, we'll do whatever it takes to make sure your big wheels keep on turning. Our mechanics usually get you going again in 30 minutes. Breakdown cover from the AA, because anything can happen.
Oh, the garden's an absolute mess. It's my turn to have the cross-stitch crew round for tea and Battenberg. I'll have to get a landscape gardener in and a wildlife expert. It's a jungle out there. We could be eaten alive by those deadly flutterbugs. Oh, relax, relax. It's Trust a Trader. Marvellous local tradespeople who've been tried, tested and reviewed. All specialists in their areas, from landscape gardening to pest control. Oh, visit trustatrader.com.
Trustatrader.com.
It's job interview day. You're in the zone. Firm handshake practiced, crisp white shirt on. You catch your reflection in the mirror and think, was I so in the zone that I left the iron on? So you take out your Hive app, check, and see that the plug is switched off. You're back in the zone.
Enjoy the moment wherever you are with the Hive Welcome Home Plan for just $5.99 a month. Hive, let's get living. Search Hive. Hive services require Wi-Fi. Terms apply. Cancellation fees apply in the first 24 months.
The Nigel Farage Show, live from Strasbourg, only on LBC.
She's lost her majority. Are we heading towards a soft Brexit? Are we going to backslide? Are we now going to stay part of the European single market with all that entails? And I'm talking to you from the European Parliament building here in Strasbourg. And we try our best to inform you on this show, as we did earlier, about the 1922 committee and its roots. Let me just tell you about the European Parliament buildings. Once a month, my office is packed into a trunk, loaded onto a lorry, and brought down here to Strasbourg, where we spend 4 days, then the trunk's reloaded and sent back to Brussels. So the European Parliament has two homes. It's a big travelling circus. It also has a third home in Luxembourg, which is where most of the administrators are. Now, the building in Brussels, which was built 24 years ago, and where the chamber, the parliamentary chamber, is housed, a parliamentary chamber, by the way, that is used as a parliament on average for 12 days a year. No, I'm not making it up. Used on average for 12 days a year. That building has got real problems. Basically, the roof is falling in. The building itself does not conform to EU safety standards. And so there is a debate going on, and the recommendation that's being made is that we knock down the building, and for the cost of 450 million euros, we build another building. And I'm tempted to say that the collapsing roof of the parliamentary building is a metaphor for the lack of democratic support in the Union. I would say that. Now, there may be many of you listening to that who think it's absolutely necessary that another £500 million gets spent on building a building that clearly was put up very badly in the first place. I think it's a total waste of money. We're paying net £30 million a day to be part of this club. Goodness knows with this, it might increase. But those of you who think it's worth every penny, please, 0345 6060 973. So, we've got Ruth Davidson, we've got other voices saying, actually, we need to water down the package. We need to put the interests of business first. Are we headed towards open borders? Are we headed towards membership of the single market? And is that a problem? Well, a lot of you seem to think it is. James says to me via tweet, what about British people who want to keep their free movement rights around Europe. Europeans lose access to one country and us to 27. Do you know what, James? Before the First World War, we were free to travel around Europe without even having passports. There is a big difference between travelling, going on holiday, going perhaps to study, and settling. And I think, to be honest with you, we'd have much less of a problem in the UK if rights of settlement, if rights of work, rather, didn't mean rights of settlement and didn't mean entitlement to the health service, the education system and everything else. There is no such thing as Brexit, Little Me tweets. We voted for leave. What is a soft leave? Mark says we should call it real Brexit and pretend Brexit. Yeah, no, I like that. Nigel, on a text, we should just walk away from the EU. A clean break. We did not vote for any deal. Let's go now, says Jim. Nigel, I can't tell you how angry I am. Only a quarter of the cabinet believes in Brexit. This government is not representing the people. To stay in the single market is to stay in the EU. We did not vote for that, says Sarah. I'm really annoyed that journalists are trying to say that the election means that people don't want a full Brexit, that it was the young people voting for Labour. Well, Shirley, the idea that these youngsters turned out for Corbyn because somehow he was pro-staying in the EU and pro-staying in the single market is rubbish. The Labour manifesto said free movement of people could not continue. They voted for Corbyn because he was anti-establishment. They voted for Corbyn because he seemed to them to be rather like a sort of kindly, gentle uncle. He seemed fun. He seemed almost a bit cool. And he absolutely hit the sweet spot, didn't he, with all those student voters by saying they would abolish tuition fees. So we saw places like Canterbury in Kent go Labour because of the number of students there in halls of residence or elsewhere voting Labour. I do actually wonder quite seriously whether it makes sense for university students to vote where they're at university as opposed to their home address. There's even a rumour that some were able to vote in both. I don't know. Harry in Doncaster, are we going to have a watered-down Brexit?
Hiya, Nigel. You're right. I met you in Thurrock, funnily enough, last weekend. But I'm worried about the way Brexit's being played out by the Tories, and it strikes me they don't really have a plan whatsoever. So what they do is they keep jumping about and backsliding. For example, a few days ago, David Davis stated that we might not have to leave the single market. Now he's claiming that we are 100% leaving it, but back in December he said we might be able to pay for access. But what sort of deal would that access be? What they'd do is they'd use free movement of people. They'd enforce it on us as a kind of bargaining chip for us to get access to the single market, which we don't want. But for me, coming out of the EU means coming out of everything. And also, I think what we need to protect is our fishing waters. I personally wanted to see Mike Hookham elected to Grimsby because I thought he'd be a strong voice in the European Parliament for our fishing community.
No, Harry, I'm going to stop you and correct you, if I may. We do not need to protect our fishing waters. We've already given them away. We need to take back our fishing waters, Harry. Isn't that the point?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, in essence. Yeah.
No, I know, but I mean, just for those that don't know, under international law, up to 200 miles off your coastline, or the midpoint, median line, between you and the next country, under international, fully accepted UN law, the fish that swim in those waters are your economic asset for you to harvest and to manage. And as members of the European Union, we have surrendered, well, up to 6 miles we can catch the fish. Between 6 and 12 miles we kind of have a few bits of ability to stop foreign boats. And beyond that, it's a free-for-all that is carved up by the European Commission. And Harry, we are catching, by value, less than a fifth of the fish that are swimming in British waters. And taking back our waters would be worth several billion pounds a year to the British economy and many, many thousands of jobs. Sorry, Harry, go on.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, you're completely right. And I'm worried that they'll barter it away and swap it for something. You know, we see this constantly and it'll be a big problem. So I thought that was why it was crucial we got that voice in Parliament for it, because nobody...
Yeah, well, Harry, we've got... By the way, on the David Davis thing, like you, I've always thought David Davis, of all of them in the cabinet, was probably the nearest to the position that I felt, that UKIP voters felt, that most people who voted Brexit felt. That comment he made about, we may lose the mandate to leave the single market, I was really worried about that comment, and I wrote about that comment. He subsequently said that when he gave that quote, it looked like Labour were going to win, and as it is now going to be a Conservative DUP thing. But Mark, Harry, you're right. There is too much chopping and changing on this. There is a lack of certainty, and so what? I mean, Harry, if just say in 2 years' time, we finish up inside the single market, how are you going to feel about that?
I'll be very disappointed, actually. It's not what people voted for. We voted to get out of everything and have the ability to make our own trade deals and our own future. And that's what it was on the paper.
Would it constitute, Harry, I mean, it's a strong word, but would it constitute for you a betrayal?
Oh, yeah.
OK. Harry, thank you very much indeed for the call. Mark in Palmer's Green, is it all going to get watered down by our career, professional, political class?
Very good evening to you, Nigel. Well, I was very depressed, but after listening to Theo Usherwood, I am now very, 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 very depressed about this. I actually feel like we are going to have to go back down to the bottom of the Brexit mountain and climb it all over again. It's painful.
I don't think it's as bad as that, Mark, but like you, I thought the 22 committee report we got from Theo was about party first, Brexit second. Party first, country second. I mean, I've heard reports that when Gavin Barwell's name was mentioned, they were all cheering. People who'd supported Brexit were cheering that this arch Remainer that abuses people on the other side. So this is one of the problems, Mark, in our politics, is that it is very tribal, and that very often people put the interests of the party ahead of their own consciences, their constituents' views, and indeed, in many ways, the national interest. Are we going to leave the European Union, Mark? Of course we are. It would be impossible to stop that. But it is really a question of on what terms do we leave, and it could well be, Mark, it could well be that the next general election, and Mrs May will not want another early one, though she might get one, but the next general election, Mark, if they do water this down, will be dominated, I think, by this subject again.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I and many of my friends who are big UKIP supporters, we all gave our vote to the Tories this time to get the ball rolling on Brexit, and believe you me now, Nigel, we will all go flooding back to UKIP for the next one, because the battle goes on. The battle goes on. I hate to say it. And would you believe it? I mean, isn't it funny that we thought the danger was going to come from the SNP and the Lib Dems and all that lot, but no, it's actually the danger looks like it's going to be coming from inside the Conservative Party, Ruth Davis, etc.
Davidson. Mark, I've been in elected politics for 18 years. I was told on my first day, never trust a Tory. They were right. Right now, you're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 7:45.
Coming up at 8 on LBC, Clive Bull.
Theresa May says she's got us into this mess and she'll get us out of it. But what can be done? And is she the person to do it?
Clive Bull on LBC.
Oh, the garden's an absolute mess. It's my turn to have the cross-stitch crew round for tea and Battenberg. I'll have to get a landscape gardener in and a wildlife expert. It's a jungle out there. We could be eaten alive by those deadly flutterbugs. Oh, relax. It's Trust a Trader. Marvellous local tradespeople who've been tried, tested and reviewed. All specialists in their areas, from landscape gardening to pest control. Oh! Visit trustatrader.com.
Trustatrader.com. Wake up, it's a beautiful morning.
Get up to £100 trade-in for your old mattress.
Wake up, it's so beautiful.
in the Hamps's bed and mattress sale, plus up to £200 extra off our ticket prices. Free local delivery, free mattress protector, even a free pair of pillows. Get a perfect night's sleep with our best ever offers. Hamps's Sleep Centres, Beckenham, Bexley Heath, Leatherhead, New Malden and Wallington, and hampses.co.uk. Conditions apply.
You're off to the airport. 3 kids, 2 adults, 5 passports. By 6 tonight, you'll have soft sand between your toes and be thinking, did we set the lights to come on at home? You take out your Hive app and set the lights to turn on for 6. You sit back and count the passports again.
Enjoy the moment wherever you are with the Hive Welcome Home Plan for just £5.99 a month. Hive, let's get living. Search Hive. Hive services require Wi-Fi. Terms apply. Cancellation fees apply in the first 24 months.
If you're considering an SUV, you're probably asking yourself a few questions. Should it be compact and nimble, like the Audi Q2? Or should it be elegant and practical, like the Audi Q3? Do you need it to be technologically advanced, like the all-new Audi Q5? Or powerful and spacious, like the Audi Q7? Well, now's the perfect time to find out, with a test drive at the Audi Q event. Head to your local Audi centre between the 17th and the 26th of June, or search Audi Q event. Then the only question that remains is, which Q are you? Audi. Vorsprung durch Technik.
I've always paid into my pension, but never thought about how it was performing or how much I was being charged for it. That's why I contacted the specialists at PensionWorks. They carried out a pension health check, which found hidden costs and expensive fees within my pension that could have cost me years of lost retirement income, meaning more money for my future.
Let the PensionWorks check your private pension for free before it's too late. Text YES to 83222. That's YES to 83222.
The Nigel Farage Show, live from Strasbourg, only on LBC.
I said before the break, never trust a Tory. I want to broaden that. Never trust any career politician when it comes to the question of the European Union. Because you see, the wonderful thing about the European Club is if you fail in domestic politics, there's always a job for you here. Is it any wonder that they managed over the last few decades to swallow up virtually everybody in the so-called main parties in our country? So we have to keep an eye on them. Otherwise, they will water down the will of the people. That's my worry. What does Michael in Shepherd's Bush make of that?
Hey, Nigel, how you doing? You okay?
Good. I'm fine. Well, I'm all right. Michael, I'm a little bit worried about things, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm worried as well. The thing I've got a few questions for you. Because I'm an estate agent in London and I rent out HMO properties, rooms, and I can sense from 2000 I can sense when something is happening in the market. And the thing that's always bugged me, you say that the reason that we want to do the Brexit is because we're paying some ridiculous bill, and but the question is that isn't technically the people that are coming in from Europe that are working in London, that are paying their rentals, their income, are they not the ones technically giving us the money? Because there's millions of pounds coming through that avenue in order for us to pay.
Well, Michael, fair point. Okay, let's just examine that. So people come in and they earn money and they pay taxes. Yeah, but also people come in and pay money in the form of taxes, but they're able to use the health system or get their kids educated. And Michael, there have been all sorts of surveys, some saying there's a small net economic benefit from migration, others saying, actually, we lose a bit of money. The House of Lords looked at this and said it was about even Steven. But you know what nobody, Michael, ever costs into this, and that is a population rising by 500,000 a year, which it has been for the last 2 or 3 years, and what the cost of new roads is, what the cost of new school buildings is, what the cost of new hospitals is. Nobody ever, Michael, prices in any of that.
I've seen in this in 2008 is now happening again, which is basically rooms right now. Usually rooms are the fastest for me to rent out. It will take me about a week or two. Now it's taking me almost a month and a half, which means there's a reducer. And obviously the people that usually rent out the rooms are people from Europe, which obviously means that there's something happening. I'm not the only one going through this. And my concern is that we are, I think maybe it's a good time for us to hold up on Brexit. The reason why is because I feel that we are going to go through another recession. And this time is going to really hurt because we're not going to have that amount of influx of people.
No, okay. I think, Michael, the economy is turning down anyway. And that's nothing to do with Brexit, but I think we are in for a bit of a slowdown. But, Michael, we can't just keep open-door immigration so that your rental business is good, can we? I mean, you know, an estate agent appealing to the country for open borders. You know, don't forget, Michael, estate agents are nearly as unpopular as politicians.
Yeah, I agree. But at the same time, the best way to see an economy what's happening is through how people are living, the properties, rentals and sales. And I've seen a huge drop in that. And then right now, property the banks are loaning out way too much. The new builds are way overpriced, and it's all happening again. And now we're just about to head into Brexit. You know, there's no point. There's no point. What's that saying? If you're in the pan, there's no point jumping into the fire. You know.
No, I mean, Michael, if you've seen a slowdown, then I think the figures do reflect that slightly, because the net migration figure, the official net migration figure for the last year, is kind of down from 1/3 to, let's say, 250,000. So the evidence is that net migration it's still running, by the way, at a level that is massively more, Michael, than anything we experienced for the first 50, 60 years after World War II. But there is a slight slowing down, and you know, if your business perhaps is reflecting that. But I think Brexit or no Brexit, we're in for a slowdown. I kind of say, Michael, that actually, after all the uncertainty, all the argument, all the fear post-Brexit, we'd actually, a year on, things had settled down. What Mrs May has done is to put great uncertainty over the economy, and I think she's more responsible. If there's lack of investment over the next few months, if there's a bit of a slowdown, I would say, Michael, Mrs May is far more to blame than the referendum last year.
Well, because I don't worry about if it's Brexit or no Brexit. I just look at facts and figures, and right now I'm just seeing something that I'm not the only one saying it. You know, a lot of people are going through this in this industry, and of course, people always live, and I always have food on my table. But I've seen a significant drop in people coming in, and I just feel that I think I don't know about if it's soft or hard Brexit or any of those things. All I know is that if we go through a recession and we go through Brexit and we don't have the influx of people coming in to be able to balance off the books in a way, in a certain way, then we're gonna be hit hard, like America.
But Michael, you know, I mean, you talk about the rental market, but I mean, in terms of building properties or dwellings, you know, when I looked at this figure just before the referendum, we had to provide a new house every 4 minutes in this country just to cope with current levels of immigration. Michael, either way, you make an economic argument and you're reporting that there is a slight slowdown in the London letting market, and I believe every word you say, and I thank you for your call. Paul in Pinner, is it all going to get watered down to nothing, Paul?
Yeah, well, I think with Mrs May's mess of the election, it's had an outstanding result in the sense that now that everybody's been migrating to Labour, perhaps from a Tory perspective, she might no longer have to fear talking about a softer Brexit, putting the economy ahead. So from a perspective of, putting the economy ahead, staying in the single market, I think this may be one of the outcomes, of which I'm personally delighted. She lost my vote as a Tory supporter because of the way she was playing it. If she goes down the softer route, I'm coming back.
Funny, isn't it, actually? This could be a return to old-style politics, where the Tory party championed the interests of big banks, big businesses and the multinationals, and Corbyn and McDonnell, the old hard lefties who've always hated big business and been worried about what it does to people's workers' rights and living standards and all the rest of it, and maybe they'll become the real hardliners for leaving the European single market, because actually, in many, many ways, Paul, the people that love the single market are surely the big businesses.
Well, what I'd say to you is, from the Corbynists' perspective, one good thing that's come out of this is that UKIP supporters seem to have headed over there, and that's diluted their vote, whereas I think the Tory party thought they were just going to come in and vote for UKIP.
Yes.
Ex-UKIP people would vote for the Tories. And now that's been diluted, it means perhaps the Tories will understand that they don't need to be pandering to the UKIP support, that they can come back to a bigger audience, which is
I think your point, Paul, I think your point in many, many ways, Paul, and let's be fair, shall we? Survation and YouGov did get the general election result right. Let's be fair to the pollsters. Everybody else, I think, got it wrong. But one of the things, Paul, that people misunderstood and misread was there was an assumption that if UKIP voters did not see UKIP as being relevant to this election, they would go en masse to the Conservative Party. And what they didn't understand was that so many of those supporters that we'd picked up last time around and in the years building up to it came from Labour backgrounds. They wanted Brexit, Paul, but they also wanted change. They also wanted an anti-establishment voice, and Mrs May's strong and stable actually repelled quite a few of them. Paul, I thank you. Well, that's all we've got time for, folks, other than for me to say that I do think Brexit just got a whole lot tougher. A week ago, a settled 70% of the country, whether they agreed or not, said, let's just get on with Brexit. It was a given. And yet, what this woman, Mrs May, has done is actually to put much of that in peril and to cast doubt across much of the rest of the British economy. She needs to go. It's impossible for her to stay. Oh, they might all cheer tonight in the committee room of the 1922 committee, but that's not how it's going to be seen out there in the country. We need a Prime Minister who actually believes in Brexit. And I will say this, you know, if the will of the people to get back control of our lives and our borders, and I hope I'm wrong, I hope it won't be, but if that is betrayed, wow, you may well then see a democratic rebellion, the likes of which we haven't seen in modern times. You've been listening to The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. I'm back tomorrow at 7. Coming up at 10, it's Ian Collins, but up next, it's Clive Bull.
Nigel, thank you very much. We're going to continue this conversation. So Theresa May says she